Good afternoon, sir. So, my first question to you is the fact that you're a musician, what inspired you to be here? What made you a musician in the first place?
Well, my musical journey actually started, I think, when I was probably around 8 years old. And I grew up in a family that was listening to music all the time. So probably that's where the motivation started from. Strangely enough, the music that was being listened to at those days, during those days at home was a whole bunch of music from Western to Indian classical, but I kind of latched on to the Western genre, and that's what I started playing at a young age. So I guess, yeah, the musical environment at home is what motivated me.
Yes, sir. And individually, other than just being a musician, what do you think are the benefits of listening to music as such? Do you think it's somewhere strikes a creativity or something? Or
well, that's a very profound question actually, because at a very philosophical level, you can say that music is like meditation. But at a very scientific level, you can say that music is vibration, and existence is also vibration. So music and existence go hand in hand, because at the end of it, it's all vibration, right? So even if we try to, we cannot escape music. It's around us. And music has rhythm in it. Rhythm is an integral part of music, whether it's sunrise and sunset, breathing, waves, tides, it's all rhythmic. So music is inherent to us, whether we like it or not. So, yeah.
Right. So, sir, after your training and everything in this particular skill, right, when was the first time you actually faced a stage performance or faced that large number of people? And how was it?
Okay, first of all, I didn't get formally trained in music. I kind of learned on my own. My sisters used to play the guitar at home, so I looked at them and I picked up watching them. And that's how I kind of learned. My first stage performance was probably when I was in my 5th standard, probably in the late 1970s, at a school program. That was the first time I sat on stage and played a guitar. About, I don't know how many, I can't remember clearly, but there were a lot of people in the audience. It was frightening initially, but then I got over it very quickly.
So in India, there is a lot of growing trend in music, especially when you listen to international music, English music.
Right.
So people who are budding musicians or who want to pursue music in India seriously, what do you have to say to them?
Music is a field of passion. You need to be extremely passionate about music. That's the first I think, criteria to be able to look at a career or a life in music. And like in any other career, a career in music also has got its challenges. And just knowing music is not enough. You need a whole bunch of other skills as well. From communication to interpersonal skills, being familiar with technology, being familiar with how to use social media. Because for your music, you need an audience, and you need to know how to attract an audience to your music. So all these things are really, really important. Yeah.
So personally speaking for you, who do you take inspiration from? Any musician or any person?
So many of them, because over the years, at every stage of my life, I've listened to different artists and different forms of music, and I've taken inspiration from so many of them. But the ones that stand out for me, if I can remember, is probably the Beatles. To start with, we have a picture of them right here, and also Indian stalwarts like Pandit Kumar Gandharva and Pandit Bhimsen Joshi have been huge influences in my listening tastes. Yes.
And so what environment do you feel is right for you while working in music? So if you want to play something, try a new tune maybe, what environment do you usually work in? What do you feel comfortable?
There is a saying, it's a cliche, but it's said that the sweetest songs are those that have the saddest tunes. Yeah. So inspiration for a musician comes in different forms. Some musicians look at it very objectively. They are given a brief to write a song, and they write a song based on a brief. They are the professional songwriters. But then there are a whole bunch of other people who take inspiration from emotions. So the first environment, so to say, is probably inside your head. You need to have the right environment in your head. Whatever you're feeling, if you're able to convert that into music, that is a great, a source of inspiration for you. As far as the physical environment goes, first of all, it has to be something that is quiet. Something where you have a little bit of isolation from people and maybe outside noise. But those kind of things are good to wish for, and most musicians make do with whatever they get. And it's the same with me. So I've tried to create an environment wherever I've been to create music whenever I've created music. Yeah.
So I just moved to the city's music right now.
Sure.
So as you said, you have been like playing from a very long time.
Yeah.
So personally, how do you feel about Bangalore's transition? Right from Carnatic, classical, then to right now it's famous for, let's say, pop and techno. So how you have experienced the transition? So how do you feel? What do you feel about it?
I came to Bangalore in 1982. We moved to Bangalore and I've been in Bangalore since. And as far as I know, Bangalore has always had a very vibrant musical culture across all genres. We had some of the great bands of the 1970s, very popular in Bangalore. And even today, if you look at it, all forms of music are thriving, whether it's, pure classical, Carnatic classical, Hindustani classical, jazz, rock, metal, pretty much every genre of music that you can think of is thriving here in Bangalore. Of course, I'm talking about everything pre-COVID. Post-COVID is something we have to see how things are going to come back and which forms of music, gain more popularity. Yeah, but Bangalore has always been conducive for music, and that it's only been getting better. It's never gotten worse.
Right. And so if I was to go on a little broader aspect, about Bangalore, do you think the music industry in India is a little restrictive? And by restrictive, I mean not in terms of pursuing music, but in terms of that if you're a musician, you'll only have to play for films. Or you'll only have to do this particular thing, only then will you be able to be a musician. So what do you think? Or is it changing time by time?
It is changing. To some extent, what you're saying is true. The popular music of India is film music. Right. Film music is the pop music. What is pop music in the West is film music over here. Right. Most people associate popular music with film music. So if many musicians go into that industry because it gives them a sustainable income. Many of them do what they have to do in the film industry and they do what they want to do outside of the film industry. Their own music they play outside of the industry. But that is also changing slowly. Indie music is getting support now, crowd support and institutional support as well. Venues are also supporting, so hopefully that will change.
And so what are the difficulties a musician faces if he does not, usually go into the filmmaking part of the thing? Financial constraint, yes. But other than that, what are the major problems?
See, again, let me just talk a little bit about how the film industry works. Even film industry, if a musician gets into the film industry, doesn't mean that she or he is sorted. It doesn't work that way. It's seasonal. If you think about the singers of 10 years ago, they are not there today. You don't hear of them today. Every movie comes out with a new singer or new singers, and so it's not predictable. I think predictability is the biggest challenge that a musician faces, irrespective of which industry they are in, whether it's film or whether it's outside of film. Because many musicians are dependent on either live shows or studio session work or session work with other bands and things like that. You can't really predict that, can you? The only thing that is predictable for a musician, I would say, is education. If a musician is into teaching others, then there is a certain amount of predictability and they can plan. So finance is one part of it. The other part of it is what I'm telling you is, if I'm a musician today, I don't know how many shows I'm going to get next month. I don't know how many sessions that I'm going to get next month. So the challenge is certainly there.
And so you spoke of, all the great musicians, especially the indie musicians. So if from my own experiences, I've heard a lot of Kishore Kumar music and everything. Right. But do you think somewhere the concept of remix, is it somewhere disturbing the musical part? Because I've seen a lot of songs, they just remix and play. Do you think that disturbing?
It's a very, very difficult question to answer because why are remixes done? Because there's an audience for it. And it's like a vicious circle, You make something, they like it. You make more of it, they like it more. And you're right, the old R.D. Burman, Kishore Kumar songs are the most popular remix songs for the Indian EDM crowd. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. At least that music is brought to today's youth. Maybe some of them will go back and listen to the original and say, okay, this sounds like a great song. Let me go and check out the original. At least that way. Otherwise, it will die with my generation.
Correct. And so the next question is, you think, there are three major aspects as far as I know. One is the part where, the lyricist write the lyrics of the music, and then the composer, and then the singer sings it, and the instrument part, of course. But do you think the composing part is the most difficult aspect? Because writing and singing is one thing, but giving a tune to a song, I think that makes a lot of difference. There are many songs which the lyrics might not be great, but the tune in which they might have been, portrayed in, that makes a difference. So I know it's a technical question, but
it is. See, it's again. I can't have a standard answer to that question because sometimes writing lyrics can be more difficult when you're given a brief for a particular scene in a movie. Writing the lyrics for that can be more difficult. Sometimes the lyrics are great, but the lyrics are written in such a way that there is no proper rhythm or meter to that. So then it becomes challenging for the composer. So we can't say one is more difficult than the other, but overall it's not easy to write a song that will appeal to a massive audience. So some composers, I'm talking outside of the film genre now. If you look at the old great popular song, whether it's by Bob Dylan or the Beatles or even bands like Rock Machine, Indus Creed, our own bands, and Thermal and a Quarter, who've been writing music for 25 years now in India. It's amazing work they've done. They have not written songs because a brief has been given to them. They have written songs which come from within. So that's a very organic process. So you can't say whether it's difficult or not. It varies from artist to artist. Sometimes a band says we need to put out an album. We need 8 songs in that album. We've got 6 songs. Now we need to force fit 2 more. If you take that route, it can become difficult. If you say that, okay, these 6 songs are enough, let's just put it out, then it's easier. So it's a very subjective thing. It depends from situation to situation.
And so I've been interacting with a lot of my friends and everyone who want to pursue music and have real passion for it. As you said, you need passion.
Right.
But they somewhere lack the direction in which way they should use their skills. So do you think you have any piece of advice for these youngsters?
You need to identify your strength. What is your strength? If your strength is playing a particular instrument, and if your strength is playing based on a piece of music that already exists, then you need to look at, okay, I want to become a sessions musician. You really need to have fantastic skills to be a sessions musician, and across the board, you should be able to play any genre because somebody is going to tell you what to play and you should be able to play it. So if you're going in that direction, that's a skill set you need to have. If you're looking at songwriting, and then you need to be able to have that ability to write songs and turn around songs very quickly. So see, again, music is such a vast field. It's such a vast field, and there are opportunities in so many areas, whether it's creating music for a video game or doing music for commercials or for films or playing live music. You need to figure out where is it that you want to be. What is it that's going to give you the most joy? I think that is the first step, and then understanding what are the skills you need in it. If you're getting into music production, you need to be really on top of technology, and you need to be very strong with your ears. You need to do a lot of ear training. You need to listen to a lot of music. You need to build your skills depending on which area of music you want to get into. So it's a very broad answer that I'm giving you, but yeah, the first step is identifying your strengths, building on your strengths, and that's when you start getting direction. Yeah.
So there are a lot of fans who follow Indian music very consistently. So I know it's a very subjective question, but where do you think Indian fans as a whole community are majorly inclined towards?
If I look at the
major trend,
the largest audience, you're talking about fans, you're talking about audiences for music.
Audiences.
Well, like we already spoke earlier, I think the largest fan base or listener base for Indian music is in the film genre. I don't like to use the term Bollywood, but I'll say the Hindi film industry has got probably the largest listening base in the country. Then it is subsets of the film industry, South, and even your Bhojpuri music, your Bhojpuri films, your Bengali films. They all have their unique Malayalam films, Tamil films. Tamil is huge. So even Telugu, any regional language has its own fan base. Now these are the larger ones. Then will come the others. Your EDM and rock and indie is largely restricted to the metros, to the 4-5 big cities.
And so this is, a sort of a controversial question, but do you think regional music or creativity thrives more in, let's say, the South or the Bengali music more than the Hindi film industry?
It's hard to say. I think
because regional music is quite restrictive, and I think that is one reason why they're very protective about their language.
What do you mean by restrictive?
So, sir, Hindi is like not a national language, but officially spoken language in many areas.
Yeah.
But let's say a Bengali or a Tamil song, right? They know that it's not very largely spoken, so they're very protective about that particular aspect.
I don't think they are protective about it. I just think that it doesn't reach as many people as it should. If you're familiar with the Bengali scene, I'm sure you would know that R.D. Burman and Kishore Kumar have put out so many Pujo albums during the Puja time in Bengal. And they are so popular there. But the rest of the country has not heard it. That's simply because the reach is not there. But hopefully that trend will change through the internet and through the social media platforms. If you draw a parallel to movies, 10 years ago, not too many people were watching Malayalam movies. Now Malayalam movies are huge. They are being remade. And once you see the remake, people go back and see the original to see how it was made. So hopefully all that will change. Because music is essentially, if I can take the example of A.R. Rahman's Chinna Chinna Aase, it was also sung in Dil Hai Chota Sa, I think. If you take away the lyrics, the song is the same. It's the same music. It's the same backing tracks that have been used for both the songs. So the musical appeal is the same for both the songs. People relate more to it based on the language, depending on the region they come from. People from the south will relate more to a Chinna Chinna Aase because they can relate to that language more. People from the north will probably relate to Dil Hai Chota Sa. So these are things which, with time, hopefully, a piece of music coming out from, irrespective of which region, will reach a larger, base. But the challenge is that there's so much music coming out these days. There's so much of it. Even as we speak, there are songs coming out on the internet from all over the world. So each one has to find a way to find its own audience. So that is the challenge more than anything else.
And I heard this in an interview that about a singer, that a singer earns more in his own individual concert rather than in a film or an album.
That is true.
So how does that work? Can you just explain this?
See, I'm not an expert because I've not really worked hands-on in the film industry, but I have friends in that industry, so I kind of know largely what happens there. If you sing for a particular song, if you are a singer and you sing for a particular movie, you get paid for singing that and it's over. There's nothing else you're going to get out of that particular assignment. But where you will actually thrive is when you go on stage and you do live shows with that song. So I'm sure you've heard of the whole controversy which the great SPB and the great Ilayaraja had. They were such a fantastic duo and they made such great music together. But very sadly, in a couple of years back, there was this controversy about SPB and doing live shows and Ilayaraja not getting paid. And thankfully, it was all sorted because they're simply two great people. Shouldn't have any misunderstanding between them. So this is what I'm talking about. If I'm a music director, I'll say the music is mine. And if you're the singer, if you go there and sing and make money from my song, you need to pay me as well. See, I wouldn't say that's right or wrong. It's the way the system is. And the system needs to be a lot more organized and there needs to be clarity on all these aspects. Then all these issues will get sorted. But to come back to your question, yes, a singer makes a lot more money with live shows than just doing a playback recording in a studio.
And finally, I'll ask you about this amazing place.
Thank you.
So, what was the idea behind this? I'm sure it came through your passion, obviously.
It did, and it came pretty late in my career. This was launched about 8 years ago in 2013. I studied engineering, industrial and production engineering, and post that I was into barcode technology as an entrepreneur. I was into computer education as an entrepreneur. Then I was into the learning and development space in corporates, L&D. I was running training programs for a whole lot of companies. I was doing all that. But in my heart, I was a musician always because I used to do a lot of music while in college. I used to do a lot of shows while being part of the college band. Even after, I played with a few bands here and music was always close to my heart. So what happened was about 10 years ago, I lost a very dear friend from college who was a drummer. He was my drummer in college and we did a lot of shows together. And he was a pretty well-known musician in the Bangalore circuits, and his bandmates, he had continued playing music while as I had stopped. A couple of years out after college, I had stopped. I had gone away from it because of the challenges of trying to make a life out of being a musician. So when he passed on, his bandmates organized a tribute concert for him, and I was invited to play because I used to play with him then. So when I was playing on stage there, I felt that, whatever else I was doing in life was not what I wanted to do. I actually felt that I had to do something in music for the rest of my life. So that was the spark for this. And of course, it took a few years, a few attempts to get this in place. And finally, in 2013, I was able to launch it. Another reason was that when I wanted to learn music, I told you earlier that I haven't learned formally. I didn't have a space to go and learn from. I just simply couldn't find the right kind of place or the right kind of teacher to learn. And that was another reason why I couldn't look at music as a career, because I hadn't studied it enough. So I felt that I should do something in that field, provide a space for both musicians and for students to come together and learn music. We also have a professional recording studio upstairs. That was primarily for our mentors and students, because people who teach here are musicians. If a musician has to go and record in a studio anywhere, they have to spend money. I don't want them to do that. So we've set up a professional recording studio for them to use. So my intention was to create a space for musicians to actually be themselves and teach with joy, so that knowing that whatever they want to do as musicians, the space is available for them.
And so we just saw the small kid coming here for admissions. I'm sure you'll see a lot of
hopefully
a lot of other youngsters who practice different kinds of genres.
Yes.
How do you think? Do you think that they still have the same kind of passion, or in some cases I've heard they're moving on to the next level of creativity, maybe better than the first one?
I don't think that is really true. What happened pre-COVID was that most people were teaching like we are, like in an academy or, in person, face to face. Not that online teaching wasn't there. Online teaching was there before as well, but it really didn't catch on. But the COVID forced everybody to go online, and suddenly you had a white hat junior also coming into teaching music. Now, why would a white hat junior come into teaching music if there isn't a market for it? Right? So there certainly are a whole bunch of people who want to learn music, play an instrument, and that is the first step towards creativity in music. Learning a particular instrument, or even a voice is an instrument. So I'll put the voice in the same instrument bracket. No, I quite don't agree that people are not learning. Yeah, they are. People are coming into, and especially people. You saw the people who came. It's the parents who are really excited about things that they couldn't do. The reason why I set this up was because I couldn't come to an academy like this. Now the parents have brought their children here because they didn't get an opportunity. They want their children to have an opportunity. So no, whether it's music, art, or any of the softer aspect of things, the finer aspect of the art forms, there will always be people who want to learn it. It's never going to die. That's for sure.
And so my last question is about the international music. You spoke of, how youngsters listen to pop and jazz, EDM from outside. I know it's not, you cannot rightly answer it, but in terms of quality, or in terms of, the reach and relatability with the audience, do you think the Hollywood or the English music is doing slightly better than us, or how do you see it?
Well, world music has always come out of certain regions in the world, and that trend continues even today. The thing is that the music that comes out of these places has got a universal appeal. So it reaches a broader audience. Their marketing channels are stronger, have always been stronger. Have only been strengthened more with the advent of technology and the internet and social media. So they are able to reach their music to more people. The only way I think Indian music suffers probably a little bit, is because we are not very good at marketing ourselves. Whereas the music coming out of the West, they're exceptionally good at marketing their music and making sure that it reaches the right ears. And of course, it is hard to answer that question. But universal music has a universal appeal. That is why it's called universal music. And it's written for such audiences. People here listen to an Ed Sheeran as well as Bollywood music. Yeah, but people there will listen to Ed Sheeran and more of other such music, but they will not listen to Bollywood music. So that's how it is.
So I think marketing is the cat.
I wouldn't say that. Like we were talking about Hindi film music and South Indian music. It's like that. It basically, the appeal. It reaches to wherever the appeal is the most. So we are probably the largest consumers of music, India. because we listen to both Western and Indian music. Right? So most of our people, I'm sure even you listen to not just one form of music, so several forms of music, which includes Indian as well. Yeah, but so yeah, we are the largest consumers, I would say. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that we have more options.
Right, correct.